Hello and welcome to Let's Build with me, Enginerd. I've gotten a lot of positive feedback on my creations so far. That's cool, and it seems you want to try to build them yourself. Some of you want world download, but I think it's better if you try to build it. This is the first creation I've actually recorded the whole build, and that way you get to see how I did it. I'm really not much of a talker while I'm building, because I need my brain to build, so this is better. I can comment where it's needed, and can remove the parts you don't need to see. It's a lot of trial and error in this building, so a lot of it gets cut out. If you've seen my creations, you probably noticed I used a lot of ducts. That's basically because it's lightweight, and I don't like the texture of the wood. I've seen a lot of you use wood for your creations, but when I'm building a car, I don't want it to have wood texture. It just doesn't seem right. I knew this one is gonna be a flying creation, so I put in 8 of those controllers, so I have somewhere to input all my bearings and such. I always try to get the frame or the functions of the vehicle working before I start to make it pretty. So I'm building a frame with the suspension and wheels and bearings and steering and everything, and then I drive around to see that everything works. For example, I don't want the wheels to hit the wheel archers. I don't want the suspension to get all the way down to nothing. The bearing you see here is the one that turns the wheels out when it gets to be an aircraft, This arm I'm building now going out again. It's not really necessary, but since all the weight of the car is hanging on this, I don't know what to call it, this strut that holds the wheel, I want it to look massive, So it's just to make it look more possible, I guess. This is me thinking. reason this one has to be so massive is since I want to have thrusters on the backside of the wheels, the large tank is the only wheel who has room for so many thrusters. And by using the large tank as a wheel, I've learned that if you just connect it as a normal wheel, it bugs out when you're trying to steer with it because it's too big. It's the same as if you try to steer with you know, 3 of those big wheels on top of each other, you get the same problem. So I found out you have to have the steering what do you call it, bearing. The steering bearing has to be on top of the wheel, not on either side of it. So that's the bearing you see there, and then it goes back, so it's not in the way of the wheel. And since it's gonna be thrusters on this one, it needs even more room. And since the wheel is gonna spin while I'm accelerating and while I'm turning it into an aircraft and just spinning for the effect, it needs 2 bearings. One to electrical motor and one to the gas motor, what do you call it? And on with the thrusters. I really like the way they made the connection tool, that you can connect it without going around and finding the right point. You can just do it through all the objects or the blocks. Makes it much easier. I was very unsure about these blocks sticking out on top of the wheels, but you've probably seen me doing it on some other creations. The SUV monster truck thing had it, and it's all the same reason. It's the turning of those large wheels. If you tried it, it's impossible to use it as a turning wheel if you don't do it like this. And if you paint it the same color as the rest of the car, it's okay. It doesn't look too bad. Of course, you have to have the wheel arch tall enough or high enough that you don't hit it. So it's difficult to build a compact car with this solution, but if you were gonna build a compact car, I don't think you would use these wheels anyway, right? Important thing with these big builds is that you test it. You test it often, because if you don't test it and just go on building, and you will find out something is missing or something is done wrong, it's harder to go back and find the mistake. But if you test it all the time, you know where to change a part or where you connect the block wrong or anything. So here you can see me testing the front of the car, and you can see the suspension almost hits the wheel arch, but it doesn't, so it's okay. But you can see it needs a lot of room on the inside of the car for those thrusters to turn from side to side. And that's problem I got later with all the thrusters who go underneath the car. Here you can see me put on the rest of the suspension, 5 per wheel, and the important thing is to get one block on top of each suspension, because or else they will just go through the block on top. And then I like to have at least 2 blocks where the suspension hits the floor, because I've seen the suspension bug through one layer. So with 2 blocks, it's more safe. I've seen it go through 2 blocks also, but I don't want the car to be taller than this one. It's always exciting to see if I put enough suspension in the car. I hoped 5 suspension would be enough per wheel for this one, because I'm trying to build it in only, you know, light material or medium light. But you never know. And when the build is done and you know the total weight, it's hard to get in the rest of the suspension, because it's so much blocks on it. But it turned out 5 is enough. This is where I'm considering how long the car should be, because I know I need a lot of space underneath it to put thrusters and such, and I also need that if you build it too short, a vehicle this tall, it will try to backflip on you. So by building the back wheels far back, you don't get that. But again, it gets very big, and that's the case for this one. It got very big. So I will be chopping up the build in about 20 minutes episodes. This episode we got the frame and we got the suspension. And this is how much of my creations start, just as a skeleton. That's it basically. So thanks for watching. Tune in next episode. We're gonna continue making the huge flying steampunk suit. Alright, see ya.